I'd love to introduce our four PMBA students that we have with us this evening.
I'm in the PMBA batch this year. We joined last July, so it's been like maybe 8 months. Yeah, so I am from General Electric Healthcare. I am a logistics initiatives leader. I help the company to look at the logistics financials, and I help them to cut costs and improve processes, basically productivity. That's my main role. I also support operations whenever there's escalations. So about me, I am a mother of 2 kids, 1 and 3. However, I still decided to join the PMBA program. And the reason why I selected this and Nanyang specifically is because of the schedule. Why Nanyang came up to me is because previously the admissions lady, June, she was really, really nice and very helpful throughout the whole process. She spoke with me like for 1 hour just describing about the course. I wasn't so sure about my credentials and my previous education, whether I could even pass the GMAT or now the EA. So she was very supportive and gave me a lot of motivation. That was the first hurdle actually for me to pass the test. Selecting Nanyang was actually not a very tough decision because being a mom of 2 and working in a corporate global company, I have a lot of night calls and sometimes I do travel, so that's a little bit unpredictable. So the weekend classes really helped me a lot, and I feel that being stuck in a room with all my classmates for 2 days over the weekend, it really helps me to absorb properly and basically forget what I have to do the next day or forget about my kids maybe. Yeah.
Thank you, Natasha. That was quite an honest answer, but thank you for sharing.
Yeah, it makes me feel like a student going back full day to school. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Junu, do you want to go next? If you can share a bit about yourself and maybe talk a bit about how do you balance, the program, your personal life, your work life.
Okay, hello, I'm Junu. So a bit about myself. I have a degree from the UK. I have a PhD from NTU. My background is actually in engineering. Professional experience-wise, I've been in the aerospace industry, chemical industry, FMCG, and oil and gas. So 4 very different industries. I've lived in 3 continents in the past 10, 15 years. Personal life, I'm married. I've been married for 10 years. I have 2 kids, age 6 and 8. So like Natasha, going to school actually allows me to leave home and get some peace. What I do is I actually work for an oil and gas company. I do advanced manufacturing, mainly industry 4. So connectivity, business process optimization, automation, that's what I do. In terms of how do I juggle work-life balance, I think that there's no easy way to do it. Discipline is one. And another one is the courses that actually are offered in the PMBA course is actually very helpful in your daily work. So it actually complements your work. So it's not so much so as work and studies are separate, they're actually together. So think of it as while I am studying, I'm actually complementing my work and how I can actually do better in my job. So the things that we learn in class actually does have direct impact. So you learn it on Saturday and Sunday, you can actually apply it Monday, the following Monday. So it is actually quite really interesting.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Kritat, would you like to go next? If you can introduce yourself and maybe even share a bit about career support so far in the program.
Sure, guys. First of all, good evening from my side. So I'm Kritat. I worked for DBS for past 6 years. So I was a data analyst before, but now I'm a business analyst. And I am a business analyst for digital banking. So for DBS, its operation in India, Indonesia, and Vietnam will be starting soon as well, along with Taiwan. So I'm a business analyst for DBS, and I work closely with the business as well as with the IT folks. So as Junyun and Natasha said, this is kind of a juggling act you need to do. I don't have the privilege of having a kid because I'm not yet married. I'm single, so I don't know the pain points which Junyu and Natasha were sharing with you guys. But just like you, all the attendees here, what I loved about the PMBA was that I interacted with my superiors, the seniors, and when it comes to career, so they do allot you a dedicated career coach with whom you can have just one-on-one your personal sessions. So that helps you to develop the understanding of, because they are like senior executive in all the industries you can ask for, whether it is FMCG, it is banking or technology whatsoever. So you can have your short-term as well as long-term plan discuss with them. And just a word of caution, just phase out your sessions with them, whoever the prospect students are, that you can see your development over phases, over a few months, rather than just having it just quick one by one. So this is one. The second, which I say, is that to the point of Natasha, that it is a close knit of people there, the crowd. You learn from your cohorts as well. It's got a great faculty members as well as the professors. They have impeccable management experience, so they share with you. It's a great learning experience. And last but not the least is the NDS alumni. So there.
Okay, thank you so much. And last but not least, Bernard, if you can introduce yourself as well as maybe tell us what's a typical weekend of classes when you do have the Saturday and Sunday, a bit about how that looks like.
My name is Bernard. I'm actually from the government sector. I'm IT project manager in Civil Aviation Authority of Singapore for the last 3 years. I'm dealing primarily with projects related to digitalization, data analytics, etc. I have been in the aviation industry for about 9 years already. So how a typical weekend of class is like is each module within, so for the modules in MBA is break up into business fundamentals or strategic insights and projects. So typically the class is on a Saturday and Sunday. It will be a full day from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Venue for this is at the Novena Medicine campus. So for those who are worried about going to the west all the time, you don't have to. So it's actually at Novena. A lot of my classmates actually, all of us enjoy the fact that it's there. So, but a disclaimer, there are some modules that are actually there in the west, so just be prepared. Okay, so there's food catered there, 2 tea breaks, as lunch. You will never go hungry during this whole few days of classes. Okay, so breaking down to what you have to prepare before coming to class, there's a lot of readings, a lot of class case study to actually go through before the class. And the class, typically there is a lot of case study discussion, a lot of presentation, a lot of debate within the class. Okay, so something good about this part-time MBA is that the class actually stays together, unlike other universities whereby you just join the full-time classes. So there's going to be a very, very strong bonds within everybody in the class. So with that, there's no awkwardness and everyone is very comfortable to voice their opinions, and there's a lot of after class parties going on. So if that's something that is of interest to you, I think maybe Nanyang is really somewhere that you can consider for your part-time MBA.
Thank you. So I just also want to tell the audience that I know we have one person who has asked a question, but please feel free to use the chat, because the idea is for this to be an interactive session between our participants and you. So feel free to ask questions. This is your opportunity. So among the 4 of you, there's one question, which is, did either any of you take the EA, the Executive Assessment Test? Okay, Natasha, so can you, okay, I guess Natasha, do you want to just talk about what does the EA cover? Like maybe some quick tips on the EA?
Okay, so I took both. I took the GMAT first.
Oh,
I didn't do
okay, wow.
and then I went to do the EA. it's a lot simpler because it focuses more on the IR bit. So it's basically common sense if you know how to read the tables and analyze. I don't think they do not test you on geometry. Maths is a lot simpler, I think, than the GMAT. English is okay. It's almost the same as GMAT, but I don't think anybody can fail with the EA really.
Bernard, anything you want to add to that?
Yes, I think the answer is don't go for the GMAT if you already go. So,
That's a very honest answer. So I want to just once from the admissions perspective step in for a second, where we do recommend participants who have maybe 6 years and above work experience. We do recommend the executive assessment for them. But if it's lower, we might also recommend the GMAT. So just to let you know that is something, it's a little case by case basis when you're at that threshold of slightly lower work experience. So then that's a conversation we can have, not a problem. But unfortunately, I cannot say blanket policy and you can all do the EA, not yet. So yeah.
The hardest part of the PMBA, in my opinion, is the GMAT. I studied for it, but I was actually exempted luckily. But I think the hardest is the GMAT. I think the rest of you, when you shake your heads, I think you agree, right? I think the courses are much, much easier. Once you pass the GMAT, basically you're home safe.
Interesting. So basically that one hurdle is done and the rest becomes easier, is what you're saying.
Yes.
I think that
Yes,
should
yes.
assure a lot of our participants. Yeah.
Okay, one thing to note, I'm going to jump in quick. The executive assessment, there isn't any books outside right now that actually let you practice it. So there's, I think GMAT, you don't have to worry because there's really a lot of textbooks and questions for you to do out there. So it might be something that you want to consider if you want to practice a lot on your before you come in. Not to worry because executive assessment is more on comprehension and analyzing the problem. Not so much about English. If your English is quite weak, I would suggest you go executive.
So we still don't have many questions come in yet, but maybe one question I can ask all of you and one of you can answer, or all of you can, is we generally get this question, right, that apart from those 2 weekends when you are in class, what is the sort of workload, if I may say so, from the program which you have to do during the week? So can you give us some idea on that? And yes, please be honest.
Okay, maybe I start first. I think there's a lot of assignment they need to do, and because the class is on alternative weekends, you don't really have a lot of time to do assignment as well as to do your readings for the next class. So you really need to manage your time well.
Let me just add. So for me, because I have kids, right? So by the time I come home, it's all kids' time. So how I do my reading before the class, I'm quite limited. So I usually do the weekend before, or the day, or the few days before. I actually try to read on the train back and forth to work. And sometimes I'll stay a little bit later in office just to complete maybe 2 or 3 articles.
Junior, Prasad, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, so how I do is just for the Natasha's point as well. If I can read it in the train or the cab, I do that. But I make it. I've started making a plan that every week or every day of the week I just read maybe a half an hour or an hour of that, so that by the end of Friday when you have the weekend classes, you are almost up there. Yeah, we do have many articles. We have many documents to read through. But yeah, you can have those the most imperative ones to look at.
I think as to how many hours, if you want to put a number on it, the number would actually vary. It could vary from 0 to 4 hours a day, depending on how fast you read and how much.
Nobody is doing the 0 hours, but 4 is a good number to keep in mind. Yes.
So basically, as I mentioned before, a lot of the readings. So if you're interested in improving yourself, then you would actually go the extra mile. But if let's say you say, okay, I just want to do this just to pass the course and so on and so forth, right? Then I think that the money could be better spent somewhere else. If you're doing a PMBA program, you're actually in it to learn something and take something from it, and a lot of it is going to come from self-reading and self-motivation. So you read, and then when you go to class, that's where you share, interact, and you listen to the different viewpoints your classmates have, and that's where you learn. So it really depends, 0 to 4 hours. depending.
Thank you. No, but I think you made a really good point. What I think some of you shared earlier about the peer-to-peer learning being a key component of the program, right? So, one other question someone's asked, the interrelated, how are assessments generally done? Like, what percentage of your assessment is, say, a project or an assignment versus an exam? So, if one of you can take that.
So one good thing about the part-time MBA is that there's rarely any exams. So each module, my module is more on the assignment, your case study, your group project. That's the three main things. So rarely there is any. For the last 6 months that we only have one exam, and that was finance. So I think finance is very hard to very hard to have case study and talk. The rest of the modules are mainly case study, discussion, projects, presentations, as well as assignments, whether individual or project or group.
And class participation as well.
Yes.
So usually class participation is about 10%, 50% depending on the subject. So the rest of it are mainly assignments, either group project or individual assignments. It's really most like for the LPG, the leading people globally one, it's mainly more of a reflection on the frameworks or the topics that is basically application of what you've learned during the class.
Since you mentioned case studies also, can I check if the case studies someone's asked, are they largely focused on Asian companies or global companies? Are they more Asia focused, global? Can you share?
So mostly the case studies are from our Harvard Business Reviews or from the Ivy Leagues as well. So they have a global perspective to it. There would be Asian angle to it as well, but it's global. I mean, it's not like we just look into one market and not the other. So it's global, because whatever is in the Ivy Leagues, we know the same case studies which we are having here.
Another question. So now I'm going to go a little faster because we're getting more questions. So I know, Natasha, you already shared in the beginning what made you choose the Nanyang PMBA, but maybe one of our gentlemen can answer what made you pick Nanyang versus if you were considering some of our other schools in Singapore. If you had to compare between part-time programs, any reason you can share why you chose NBS?
For me, I'm on a scholarship from my company, so I could easily choose each university I want to go. So for Nanyang, something unique about it is the weekend classes. So if you have taken classes after your work on a weekday, it's very exhausting, and then you really can't absorb anything during the weekdays. That was one of my criteria. Another criteria is for part-time MBA, it's pretty short. It's one of the shortest one compared to the rest of the university as well. So, and something good about this is the class sticks together, unlike other universities whereby you have to join the full-time MBA. So that's very tough. Sometimes you need to find your good mates, and then you cannot really excel in your class. You can't really, and people are more reserved. Unlike the class that we have now, where everyone, whoever has an opinion, will just voice out immediately. So discussion is very key and valuable in my opinion. So that was the reason why I chose Nanyang. Plus, it didn't hurt that in the town area.
No, I understand. Thank you for sharing, Bernard. I do realize that the location becomes a key criteria. So just quickly moving on to the other couple of questions, and maybe Junior, if you can take this. How do you think the program has helped you in these 8-9 months in terms of your job or your career so far?
In terms of your daily work, I wouldn't say that if you finish your MBA, you will straight away get promoted to general manager or director level. I think that is a not very realistic kind of ideology. The way it's actually helped is the weekend classes, the different modules. I come from an engineering background, so I do not have a lot of the other portions, let's say finance, accounting, leading people, dealing with cultures. So I've always wanted to know how to deal with these kind of different issues. So when we go to classes during the weekend, you get what is like a 18-hour crash course on on that particular subject. Then Monday, when you go back to office, you try to implement these things, and then you see what works and what doesn't work. And then from there, you actually are able to refine your methodology. And then with the complemented by the reading material, you can actually see how people do it, and then exchanges during class and you implement. So the whole process is there.
Okay, thank you. Also wanted to share, the next question we have here is, what about field trips? So I know you all have the emerging market strategies trip coming up to Vietnam. So I know that's not happened, but beyond that, do you all end up doing company visits, anything that you've done in the last few months, or industry speakers, anything you can share?
I think most of us, or all of us, are actually looking forward to the field trip in Vietnam. It's actually taking all the students out from the classroom and going to the site and actually learning about things on the ground. That means getting our hands dirty and trying to implement stuff. So that one, I think everybody's really looking forward to it. As to field trips in Singapore, we have not done any. However, there are guest speakers who come in to the course. And these people come from different backgrounds. The previous weekend when we had classes, we actually had somebody coming from Kimberly Clark. He was a VP of emerging markets, and he kind of shared with us his strategies and what he did, because he was working he is working in South Africa. So these kind of things is like he actually purposely flew to Singapore, gave the talk for like an hour, and then the next day he was flying out. So I think that one, these kind of guest speakers when they come in, is really a real value add to the students.
Just want to add, so there are a lot of communities. I'm not sure what the acronym are, but I remember going for one that was held at Microsoft office, and it was for, I think, women in business or something like that. So it was a panelist of director level position, and then they were just sharing what are their challenges being a woman in that field and climbing up the corporate ladder. So we do have a lot of opportunity to go for this kind of networking sessions and talks as well. Yeah, it's just whether or not you want to sign up for them and sacrifice your weekday night. Nanyang, a lot of networking sessions.
Yeah, on that point, there is actually a networking session too, which I actually signed up for but couldn't go. There was actually one. They actually have a lot of very good networking sessions.
Yeah.
So speaking of networking, do you have opportunities to interact with the full-time MBA class at all?
Usually during the networking sessions, invite the old batch from MBA, PMBA, or the EMBA. Usually these will be the main. It's not just our batch or the full-time MBA. It's usually together. Yeah, so we do know a lot of the full-time MBA as well as the EMBA, as well as for from the previous batch.
So, sorry, I understand that Bernard and Junyu, you need to leave soon. So, yes. In case you do right now, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you joining. And then, we'll let you go for now, and we'll continue with Natasha and Prasad then.
Okay. If you have any questions, please forward it to the graduate office, and then we will direct it to us. We can.
Yeah, we're happy to put you in touch. Thank you so much.
You can share our contacts if you want. Yeah, then we will address any questions.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Natasha and Kritat, one question, I guess, just to confirm, you have not started your SPAN projects, right? Because someone was asking about that. So, Siddharth, I'm sorry, we won't be able to really discuss that on today's call. But maybe another question that we can take is, how often do industry speakers visit? How often do you have such opportunities?
Well, it depends on the course as well. Like, Natasha pointed out there's some course where you need reflection. So, the professor is sufficient enough of telling you, but, where like for marketing, we had a case study for Coke. And we also, in one of those courses, we had, someone from Charles and Keith as well. So giving us the life situation, the life problem we need to work on. So there are many occasions like that, and there are prominent industry speakers. I mean, they're from that C-suite level. So they give a very novel perspective of things from their end, and it is quite learning experience for us as well to. So it's very common. It's not like that you'll have just in one course or the other, but it's just too frequent, and it's great learning as well. You're hearing those people.
And like Doug mentioned, for marketing, we had a company competition project for Coca-Cola, and then the top three winners actually won like the Coca-Cola luggage and the MBS voucher, and they were given the opportunity to go to Coca-Cola and do a live presentation. Similar to our corporate governance subject, so Prof. Sabina actually got IHS to come and share a real life company problem which they are facing now, and that was our assignment, to do some sort of research and recommendation.
I realize some of the other questions we have are, we'll get back to our attendees on a one-on-one level because they're more specific to their profile and may not be relevant for the larger group. But can you both, maybe I'm thinking at this stage, share some just general tips on how to prepare for the application, apart from the executive assessment or GMAT, but the application interview, any sort of tips that you would like to share?
Okay, I'm not really good at interviews. So anyway, I went through the interview. It was with Louis and the dean. Basically, Louis was the one talking a lot. The dean was just sitting there. Anyway, it's a very informal interview. You don't have to be worried about it. Just be natural and share about yourself, your experience, they will probably ask why you want to join and what do you think you can learn from it. So it's very easy questions to answer. Don't stress about it.
Yes. I think that's a good tip. Don't stress is a good one.
Yeah, apart from that, you have, in your, when you'll be applying, you have those essays as well, and to get the letter of recommendation. So, I mean, just be very serious with that. I mean, it's just because it's your letter of recommendation. So take it from somebody who's serious about your career. And as Natasha said, we need to figure out why we need to do this, MBA and how it would help us in our career. So just relax, and if you know these answers, then yeah, you're good to go.
I think that's a good point about the letter of recommendation, getting it from someone who knows you well, like you said, who supports or is serious about your career. So someone who can really speak about your day-to-day work. I think that's really important to keep in mind. And maybe from our admissions perspective, I can just highlight that kind of what both Kritaj and Natasha said, that we want to make sure that you have clarity of goals. You know how your career has come so far, where it's headed, why do you think the professional MBA is going to help you, and then similarly getting the right letters of recommendation. So those are just some things to keep in mind. And yeah, I think with the interview, prep wise, just maybe go through your application. Knowing your application in and out is good, but yes, confidence is very important. Stress, as we say, can be smelled from miles away, so good to keep these things in mind. Actually, maybe one more question we have, which either of you can answer, is can you share a bit about the diversity of the profile in your current cohort? Like basically what kind of age group, what kind of backgrounds, whatever you can touch upon.
For the stats.
No need for stats, just some like examples of maybe industries and age group. Otherwise, of course, we have all of that on our website.
Age-wise, I think we have as young as 28 to as young as 40-ish. The median would be about maybe 35, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, and career or position-wise, we have, I think we have executives level. I'm not sure who is the highest rank. We have MDs, the director, but really,
I meant this whatever.
Yeah.
Industry-wise, can you share maybe one of you?
So industry-wise, quite wide as well. So like I'm in banking, and Natasha is healthcare as well, and some there are civil aviation. There are people from defense as well. So there are people from government sectors as well. And then you have companies which are not so big but quite humongous as well. So we have people who work for other banks like Barclays as well, your BNP Paribas, and we do have some scholars as well. So there are around 2 or 3 PhD holders. So
Three.
one is in mathematics. The other one I'm not sure because the topic is I'm not sure which topic she's done her PhD. So we've got quite a diverse field as well, and it ranges from if I were to say from industry perspective, it could be your IT, banking, manufacturing, maybe logistics as well, healthcare, and government sector as well.
Okay,
Doctors.
I think that answers some of the next questions where someone asked about whether technology is also covered as the industry. And one question I can answer just about the class size is typically 40 to 50 students. We'd like to keep it a small cohesive unit because I think you both can talk more about how it's important to keep it interactive with the faculty, as well as what we were talking about earlier, the peer-to-peer learning component of the program. Okay, so some other questions. Okay, I don't know if one of you wants to take it. It says how PMBA is ready for Industry 4.0. I do think that's a very wide question, but I don't know if either of you has a perspective on it, then please go ahead.
What's the definition of Industry 4.0?
As MBA students, I expect you to know the answer to that, but from what I understand is it's all about the sustainability bit.
Yeah, so we do have the subject specifically on corporate governance and sustainability. I hear from the previous batch that it used to be a 1 weekend course, but ours, they actually they heard the feedback from the previous batch, and they actually extended it to a 2 weekend class. So some classes you get like just 1 weekend, which is 2 days. Some classes you actually have to sit through 4 days, so 2 weekends.
Some of the other questions we have, I think, like I was saying, are probably what we can take offline. This is one question which maybe I'm happy to answer, but about or actually maybe two of you can also chime in. How important are academic achievements, and does endorsement question, but basically admissions selection criteria. So okay, maybe you both can share what you think helped your application, and then I can give a more general answer. Oh wow, there's one very interesting question that has come up. Which module are you the most scared of? Maybe we'll start with this. And then
I reckon Natasha and me would have the same answer for that. You're answering the module one first, or the previous one?
Yeah, let's start with the module one because we can talk about the admissions bit ourselves, so no problem.
So speaking about module, our first and the second tri-semester result was out today itself. So I reckon Natasha would have done great in finance.
Yeah, surprisingly.
Yeah, surprisingly so. Yeah, finance is the most dreaded one because I am not from finance backgrounds. I'm more into tech and more of strategy thing. So it doesn't come easy to me. But having said that, it doesn't mean that it doesn't come easy to anyone not having the background. But yes, I mean it doesn't come naturally too. So it's one of those modules. Rest.
Okay.
For me, we did a Bachelor of Commerce, major in finance. So when I attended Sri's lecture for finance, it was actually somewhat different from what I learned during my bachelor. So it was a really good refresher. Even though we suffered through the class, but it was really good information and knowledge for myself.
Do you have any tips for anyone who's joining the class in July? Like any, prep work they can do to get more geared for the program?
Making a habit of sitting 9 hours and less of social life. That is what that is the only difference. Else, because you're joining this program, you would have that rigor and dedication towards it, so you would be good at it. It's just juggling the work, and most of you would be having families as well, so juggling all these together.
Yeah, so for me, I think is to focus, put your mind to it, don't give up. When you start the course, they actually give you already the schedules on when you have to go for class. So make sure you have that down in your calendar, and make sure you attend all the classes, because it's not easy to ask for a replacement. Yeah, so I think commitment is one of it. Yeah.
That's a good point. The next question is, we kind of spoke about this, but has there been any sort of visible changes in your work performance? I know Junyu earlier spoke about how he applies a lot of these learnings from a weekend in the office on a Monday, but is there any sort of practical implications that you can talk about?
Yes. So before joining the program, I was a data analyst in DBS. So now I'm a business analyst. It was mostly because of my inclination towards the business side of things as well. So now I work quite closely with the business folks who take decisions, who are more into strategy and stuff. So how you negotiate with them, coming from a tech background and representing tech people there. You need to understand them as well. So initially that understanding wasn't there. So some of those negotiation classes, we had the modules, and the other business objectives which we the vision, mission and the values we learn about. So it gives a somewhat true picture of what they do as well. So sitting in a particular team, you won't get the complete picture. So I reckon now I understand a bit of more what these guys need to do, and their requirement as well. So that has helped me as well.
For me,
Yeah.
when I told my boss that I was going for this PMBA class, he was very supportive, and I'm not sure if it's because of that. He actually gave me more autonomy to do stuff, and unknowingly, it actually helped me to be more confident in the decisions that I make, in the presentations that I make as well. And yeah, it really helped in my work life.
How open are faculty members to sort of one-on-one interaction, like apart from in the class, but after class, do you end up meeting with some of them?
Yes, actually just last weekend they were over here at my place playing board games. There is a group that plays badminton every other weekend. There is a group that goes out and drink almost every weekend after class. We are very inclusive. I don't think we are groupies. Anybody who wants to join is open to join any activity.
So that's a great point, although I think you may have misunderstood my question. So I'm glad you did talk about sort of the life that you have as a group. So that's great to hear, sort of the community bonding. The question I was reading out was faculty. Do you have the opportunity to meet profs and faculty outside of class?
So we've never had that experience because we clear all our doubts.
Fair enough. Okay.
But they are reachable. So they do give their contact numbers or the coordinates you can reach out to. So it's not that it's just after the weekend it's dead there. So if you have any questions, you are free to write.
So like they're reachable maybe via email.
Yes. Maybe because the faculty also keeps visiting as well, and they have other schedule.
So someone asked about if you miss a class due to a compelling reason, are there makeup classes? So from what I understand, you would need to do that class with the following cohort, correct?
Yeah.
So attendance is 75%.
Yeah. So attendance is
5 weekend class, you can't even miss one.
Are either of you doing additional electives? And I think you, Kritat, are doing something from which is part of the full-time MBA program, right? You're doing an elective from there?
Yeah, Natasha is doing the same one. So we are doing these.
Please, if you can both talk about that.
So we do have the options of selecting electives, up to 3 electives. The 3 courses, and that we get to do with the full-time MBAs. The schedule and the rigor would differ, according to the the course. But the ones me and Natasha are doing our strategic framework and how to use it in a business. So you get to interact with as the full-time MBA as well, the full-time MBA students. These electives are a bit different from what your curriculum or your rigor for PMBA is, and it is kind of gives you a more better understanding in a specific field if you want to. Like I wanted for strategy, something framework where business are taken. So this helped me. I mean, this course. So there are other in marketing as well, and I believe some other electives as well. So this was the one which I thought would be helpful for my career. So Natasha, you can add.
I remember on sustainability that was quite popular as well. There was another one on the Sanzi business or something like that. That was quite popular. Yeah, so we chose this one because it was a half mod. Half mod meaning it's just 6 night classes. No exam, but we found out that there's a quiz and
I think Bernard is also in one of the electives right now. That's why he had to leave.
Yes, Bernard is on.
Let's maybe not go to the faculty, but favorite course that you have. Any reason you enjoy a particular course?
Yeah, quite a few actually.
I think other than finance and macroecons, we love everything else.
Okay, that's good to hear. I'm sure those who are anyway worried about finance are going to get a little more worried after this conversation. But I guess 1 or 2 courses here and there we all need to deal with, right? Yeah. So one question, which is just, would you be okay, the two of you, and I think Bernard said he was fine, if some of the attendees get in touch with you over LinkedIn? Okay, this is an interesting one. We're getting a lot of interesting questions from this one person. So he's asked if you were given the chance to improve the PMB experience. So one improvement, I guess it's good feedback for us also. What would you improve in the program? Be honest, Kritat and Natasha, no problem. Except for the finance course.
That's a good question.
Experience-wise, yeah. Any experience-related stuff?
Never had any bad experience as of now, sorry.
Good to hear that.
It's a really tough question.
It's a tough question, actually, yes.
Yeah. We have to give credit to Akash who's asked this question. It is definitely a thought-provoking question, yeah.
No, so Louis is a program manager, right? So he hears our complaints all the time, and he must think that maybe we're very picky. But anyway, we complain about the food sometimes, and he switches it. We complain that in these few weeks we have too many classes at Jurong campus. He tries and change that. So we really don't have much to complain about. It's either the food or the venue. That's all. We don't complain.
Yeah,
about
the structure-wise, course-wise, the faculty-wise, it's great. I mean, we don't find a lot of variation in that, but yeah.
It's good to know that your complaints are food and venue. So that I think is manageable at our end, no problem. So maybe I can just ask you to one last question, and then I could just wrap up with talking about the admissions requirements. But maybe one last question is, are there any industry clubs that you have joined? I'm actually not too sure whether you have that opportunity. So have you joined any clubs or formed a club yourselves?
We do have one of our batchmates who has this banking meetups. So he's arranged it himself. It's not that it's through the college as well. So you're free to do that. But through this course, I'm not sure anybody has done any industry. Has a group for any industry, because seriously, we don't have enough time of joining so much elsewhere as well, because you're caught up with the other activities as well. But yeah, if you can, then yeah, you're free to do. Like one of our teammates has done, and I've been to one of his meetups. So it's not just limited to our batchmates as well. It's just to anyone in banking and finance.
I think in terms of questions from your perspective, from like a participant perspective, I think that's kind of it. Maybe one final thing is, how have you kept connected with alumni? I mean, I assume the alumni office is one way, but Have you had the opportunity to meet up with alumni or connect with them on LinkedIn?
I think I have a few of them on LinkedIn. I don't meet up with them as often, but I know a friend that does. He's a social butterfly. So he for lunch and but anyhow, we do have some previous PMBAs from the previous batch who join our class, and sometimes if we have events, then we'll ask them along as well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, both Natasha and Krizat, for your time. I think you really provided a lot of valuable insights from your experience so far. So thank you for taking the time. And I'll probably just wrap this up with talking about, because someone was asking about admissions criteria. So feel free to stay on, or if you'd like to drop off, that's fine too. But thank you for your time today.
Okay, thank you. Good luck, everyone.
Good luck. Good luck.
Okay, so just the last bit that I can highlight is when we were talking about what we look for in the admissions requirement, or sort of what makes a strong application to the PMBA. Well, one is, of course, that work experience is very important, and by that we mean the quality of the experience you have, the impact you've created, your leadership ability. Also, someone asked if they have 1 year work experience, if they're eligible to apply. So you're not. We do need a minimum of 3 years, but if you see our profile, an average is 8.5 years. Our website has those details, as well as from what you heard our participants talk about, the age range and the work experience range can go from about 28 years to 48 years. So that depth of experience is just reiterated. That's so important for us. And when we say impact, what your professional accomplishments have been so far, where do you see your career headed? So what is your sort of clarity of your career goals, your career path moving forward? How do you see the MBA helping you? And really, this all information is reflected in your essays, your letters of recommendation, like whatever you're saying, is it supported by your referees, your resume to an extent, and can you really showcase all of this in the interview? So we look at all of that. With regards to academics, yes, we do look at it to an extent with looking at your undergraduate GPA as well as your GMAT or EA score, but it's not a defining factor. We look at all these different aspects together. So hopefully that gives you some idea about what we're looking for. And maybe the last couple of questions, I think that some of these, Akash, maybe you can just email us separately. So feel free to email us any specific questions that you have about your profile. It's the same email that you received, the invitation for the webinar, and we're happy to have a conversation with you about your profile. But thank you so much for taking the time to join us on a weekday evening. We really appreciate it, and hopefully you have some more idea about the program. And we look forward to receiving your applications.